Hello, so today I would like to talk about the character in How Much Land Does a Man Need? Okay, the first main character in this story is Fahum. He is a peasant farmer in 19th century Russia who wants to increase his wealth. He is very industrious, ambitious, and very dedicated. By the end of the story, Fahum's ignorance and pride get the better of him. Next, the most important character of the story is the devil. This character based on the spirit of evil in Christian mythology. He tempts Fahum too long, more for material possession. He is portrayed as a trickster who enjoys Fahum's downfall and corruption. Okay, the next important character in the story is the brothers-in-law of Fahum. This is because Fahum borrows money from his brother-in-law while he and his wife save to buy land. Next, the protagonist or the leading character of How Much Land Does a Man Need is Fahum. This is because the Fahum greed leads to his own destruction. He wears himself out trying to cover as much land as possible in his one-day walking circuit. Next, the antagonist of this story is the devil. He is a flat character and he also pretends to be other people such as visitors, telling about land. He also very sneaky and tricky. Okay, that's all for me. Thank you.
Next, I will tell the synopsis of the story. The protagonist of the story is a peasant named Behram who overhears his wife and sister-in-law argue over the merits of town and peasant farm life. He thinks to himself, if I had plenty of land, I shouldn't fear the devil himself. Unbeknownst to him, devil is present sitting behind the stove and listening. Devil abruptly accepts his challenge and also tells that he would give Behram more land and then snatch everything from him. A short time later, a landlady in the village decides to sell her estate and the peasants of the village buy as much of that land as they can. Behram himself purchased some land and by working on the extra land is able to repay his debt and live a more comfortable life. However, Behram then becomes more possessive of his land and discovers arguments with his neighbors. Threat to burn his building began to be uttered. Later, he moves to a larger area of land of another commune. Here, he can grow even more crops and amass a small fortune. But he has to grow the crops on rented land, which irritates him. Finally, after buying and selling a load of fertile and good land, he is introduced to the Bashkirs and is told that they are simple-minded people who own a huge amount of land. Behram goes to them to buy as much of their land for as low a price as he can negotiate. The offer is very unusual. For a sum of 1,000 rubles, Behram can walk around as large an area as he wants, starting at daybreak, marking his road with a spade along of the way. If he returns to his starting point by sunset that day, all the land his road encloses will be his. But if he does not reach his starting point, he will lose his money and receive no land. He is delighted as his belief that he can cover a great distance and has changed upon the bargain of a lifetime. That night, Behram experiences a surreal dream in which he sees himself lying dead by the feet of the devil who is laughing. He stays out as late as possible, marking out land until just before the sunset. Toward the end, he realizes he is far from the starting point and runs back as fast as he can to the waiting Bashkirs. He finally arrives at the starting point just as the sun set. The Bashkirs cheer his good fortune, but exhausted from the run, Behram drops dead. His servant buries him in an ordinary grave only 6 feet long, thus answering the questions posed in the title of the story. The end.
The time of our short story that we pick is during summer, and the place that mentioned in this short story is at Volga village. Volga village is rural area that located in Russia. In this short story, the social environment is village environment. Why setting is very important in a short story? This is because setting in a short story is act as a background of the story. it is important for the reader to imagine where the story took place. Besides that, setting is very important so that the reader can visualize and experience the story by themselves.
In this part, I'm going to explain about the theme for our short story, which is how much a land does a man need. The theme for this short story is greed and its power to corrupt oneself. In this story, the protagonist, Pahom, a poor farmer, desire a land until a point where he claimed that he will not fear the devil itself if he have more land. So this story is basically about one greediness that can impact oneself.
Okay, now I'm going to talk about the point of view of the short story, which is How Much Land Does a Man Need by Leo Tolstoy. Okay, from whose actually point of view was the story written? So based on the story, it's actually written in a third person view, which is the writer himself or us, the reader. Okay, the writer actually didn't use I or myself in the story. He actually used a person's name, he, she, a lady, and many more. Okay, which refers to a third person view. Okay, so here's an example of the story. Okay, so now Pahom had land of his own. He borrowed seed and sowed it on the land he had bought. The harvest was a good one, and within a year he had managed to pay off his debts both to the lady and to his brother-in-law. Okay, based on the example, the writer didn't use I or myself in the story. He actually used a person's name, which is Pahom, as the main character of the story, he, and many more. Okay, so the point of view of the story is actually a third person view.
Next, I'm going to talk about the conflict. Conflict is any problem that a character in a story encounter in a story. The major conflict for this short story is shown by the protagonist, Pahom, who is a peasant. The conflict in this story more to internal conflict where Pahom is possessed by his own greediness. Pahom, a poor farmer that desire land, he became greedy after the devil gave him land and he wanted more and more. Throughout the story, Pahom also have fight with his neighbors because they let their cattle into his land. The cattle then ruined his land and Pahom became angry. His greediness soon led him to his own death.